Hey guys, welcome to Thunderstorm 99. I am Nick. Today I am going to be reviewing the movie Twister. Awesome movie. Awesome movie! Awesome movie! That was dumb. That movie was really awesome. The movie begins in like 1972. Gary England, greatest meteorologist on the planet, the greatest meteorologist of all time, Gary England, on TV, KWTV, Channel 9, Oklahoma. On the TV, reporting an F5 tornado. Anyways, meanwhile, little girl, Jo, upstairs asleep. Thunderstorm wakes her up. Thunderstorm, loud thunder, lightning, everything. And let me ask y'all a question. Have y'all ever slept through a thunderstorm? I love sleeping through thunderstorms. It helps me sleep. Well, I also like being woken up by thunderstorms, but most of the time I just sleep like a baby through a thunderstorm, so I never wake up through a thunderstorm. As a matter of fact, I have my phone set to where I listen to thunderstorms while I sleep on YouTube. That helps me sleep. I love it. But anyway, so Jo wakes up. Her mom runs in, says, "Hey, we got to go." Says, "Jo, wake up. Let's go." Dad runs upstairs. It's like, "Hey, we got to get down to the storm cellar. TV says it's big. It might be an F5 tornado." So they're running out to the storm cellar, going all the way through the thunderstorm, running out to the storm cellar, and the dog's running out there, and Jo's like screaming for the dog, and so they get down in the storm cellar. She's like, "Daddy, Daddy, the dog's still outside," and so he lets the dog in, and So they're thinking everything's safe, and all of a sudden the cellar door starts shaking. The dad, being the good man he is, good father, good husband, goes up there and tries to hold the door down, but sadly the tornado takes him away. The big F5 tornado takes him away. The door comes off. He, gets blown away. Very sad, and Joe's very devastated about it. Very sad, and you go into present day, which is in 1996 at the time. Meteorologists are tracking storms moving through Oklahoma, the greatest state ever, the greatest state on the planet, Oklahoma, known for its tornadoes. And they're anticipating a record outbreak of tornadoes. So then you go out in the middle of nowhere. Bill Paxton's character, rest in peace, Bill Harding, is driving with his fiancee Melissa to meet his soon-to-be ex-wife Jo, who's supposed to sign the divorce papers, but she's not, but she didn't. And they come out there, and Dusty, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, freaking awesome guy, rest in peace, it's like, "Hey, it's the extreme! It's the extreme!" Referring to Bill. Bill is the extreme. Bill the Extreme Harding. So he's like, "Hey man, don't start that." So Bill introduces Dusty to Melissa. It says, "Dusty's been chasing tornadoes with us ever since we started." So Bill's going. So it's like, "Hey man, where's Jo?" And he's like, and Dusty's like, "Oh, over by the Doppler. They broke down again, running out of grant money." Yeah, you can definitely tell they are broke. Crappy vehicles and stuff. And they're trying to protect people. They're trying to save lives by creating a new advanced warning system. But they're running out of money. And so Bill's, going over there. He says hi to everybody. And they're all like, "Welcome back." And he's like, "I'm not back." He's becoming a weatherman. He doesn't want to chase tornadoes anymore. He's like, "I'm not back." And he goes over to Jo, and he's like, "Hey, Jo, how you doing?" And she's like, "Hi, how are you?" He's like, "I'm glad you found us." And Jo, played by Helen Hunt, crazy woman. I mean, you watch this movie, she's a crazy woman. And he's like, "Hey, about the divorce papers." And she's like, "Yeah, I got them signed. Here you go." And he's like, "Hey, you missed a page." And she's like, "What?" And so he's like, "Hey man, will you just sign this so we can get out of here?" And she's like, "Hey, your fiance's here. Let me go meet her." He's like, "No, I don't want you to meet her." And she's like, "Hi, hi, how are you? I'm Jo." And she's like, "Bill just told me the happy news. You're getting married." He's like, she's like, "Yeah, we're getting married." And he's like, So Bill and Joe are out talking, and she's like, I thought you'd be coming out here alone. He's like, I wasn't expecting on coming out here at all. And she's like, well, this is about Dorothy. So they go, and there's this big weather instrument type thingy that they call Dorothy, named after Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, who gets sucked up into the tornado. And the plan is that they are going to put this Dorothy weather instrument. Put this Dorothy weather instrument into the tornado, and like thousands of these little sensors will go up into the tornado and read back all the weather information, wind velocity, wind speed, all of that. They can create an advanced warning system that would save lives. This is pretty cool. I never thought of that. Of course, I never thought of anything. So they're like, yeah, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go with you. I want to do this. I want to check this out. So they're driving and chasing tornado. So they're driving. They're like, hey, let's get out of here. And all of a sudden, as they're driving, Bill sees his old enemy. What's his name? Jonas Miller, played by Cary Elwes. Good actor. I like Jonas. So he's like, oh man. So anyway, so they stop at a restaurant, and that's when Bill sees that that Jonas has created his own version of Dorothy, known as Dot 3. And Bill's like, hey, you son of a, he's like about to whoop him, kick his butt. And he's like, you stole my design. And he's like, it was an unrealized idea. It's my design now. And anyway, so they get out and so he's like, we'll see who gets there first, man. We'll see who gets there first. And so Bill's just hanging out outside, just looking at the sky, and Dusty comes out. He's like, hey, look at that sky. It's going green. Let's get her done. Not really. He's like, saddle them up. So they're going out. They're chasing the tornadoes, and Melissa's driving the truck behind everybody while Bill is riding with Joe. And so they're driving. All of a sudden, Bill and Joe start arguing. He's like, I may have walked out, but at least I showed up in the first place. And he said, and then one of the other guys is like, oh man, he sees a tornado coming. He's like, hey, you guys gonna wrap this up anytime soon on the CB radio? And Bill goes, what? And he goes, oh, nothing. I just wondered if we were going to chase this tornado, if you want to catch the next one. He's like, whoa, let's go. And so they're driving, they're chasing the tornado, and he's like, so he just like, tighten your seatbelt and just vroom, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, this was a good idea, and the tornado's just going straight for them, and he's like, oh man, I shouldn't have done this. And they crash the truck. They crash Joe's truck, and they're like, okay, let's get this instrument ready, let's get Dorothy ready. And they're like, nope, we can't. They hide underneath the tractor, and all of a sudden the tornado picks the truck up, and then the tornado's gone, and Joe's like, where's my truck? And then the truck falls to the ground right in front of Melissa. And Melissa screaming, ah! And Joe's like, oh, there it is. He's like, whoa, man. And Dusty's the first one that gets to Melissa. He's like, you just missed the truck. That's awesome. That's awesome. She just missed the truck. Yeah, I'm getting crazy. Sorry. He's like, Jill, we just missed the truck. And so, like, Joe's truck is destroyed now. So now Joe and Bill are driving Bill's truck with Melissa in the back seat. And they're going to go chase another tornado. So they're chasing the next tornado and driving through this. And all of a sudden, rain starts pouring down. It's pouring down rain. And Bill's just driving, And they're getting slammed, and he's like, hey, y'all better hang out. So they're driving through this, and like, hey, we see a cow. There's a cow flying down. Joe's like, cow. Another cow. He's like, actually, I think that was the same one. And she's like, yeah, Bill, we're in the core. So they're driving, and then they just, all of a sudden they stop, and these tornadoes are just freaking turning the car around. Thank God it didn't pick the car up. And freaking Bill, Joe, and Melissa's in the back seat, and they're like, wow, that was awesome. They're getting out. And all of a sudden, here comes the rest of the team driving down. And they're like, and they're listening to the song, Long Way Down. I don't think I'll make it on my own, by the Goo Goo Dolls. Good song. Not a big Goo Goo Dolls fan, but I do like that song. It's after that they drive to Aunt Meg's house, Joe's aunt, and they're having dinner, and they're talking about Bill, and Bill's like Bill is the extreme, and Melissa's like, why do you call Billy the extreme? And he's like, Bill's the most out of control son of a bitch in the game. And Bill's like, I think I came in second looking at Joe. And so they're with Aunt Meg. Meg's excited to see Bill. She missed him. Bill's been out doing his own thing, and so they're all like eating steak and eggs, and just having a great lunch. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, we got another tornado. It's like, we got one, baby. F3! Oh, speaking of which, the Fujita scale, they're talking about the Vegeta scale. They're like, hey, hopefully we get to see some F4s. And the Fujita scale, which today is known as the enhanced Fujita scale, the EF5 is the highest, but at that time, they're talking about, like, hey, maybe we get to see some F4, that'd be awesome. And then they're like, and Melissa's like, has anybody ever seen an F5? And they're all of a sudden, like, very quiet, and they're like, only one of us has seen an F5. Joe, when she lost her dad. And so the next thing you know it, there's another tornado warning. We got one, baby! F3! And all of a sudden the orchestra's playing. Dun 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 dun. And that's the intro to one of the greatest songs of all time, Humans Being by Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, the lead singer. There ain't no such thing as David Lee Roth, okay? It ain't Van Halen without Sammy Hagar. But anyways, and they're like, so they're driving down. They're like, okay, let's go. Dun 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 dun. There is just enough Christ in me to make me feel almost guilty. Shine on, shine on. Great song. So they're driving, and all of a sudden, and this has become pretty like I think it's F3 tornado, and Bill and Joe, they're like getting Dorothy ready, and all of a sudden this tornado is pretty violent. It's just freaking crashing down, just freaking destroying everything. And they're like, all right, let's get this going. So all of a sudden this tornado is just pretty violent, just a really violent tornado, the most violent tornado that we've seen in this movie so far. And Bill's like, no, we're not doing this. We got to get out of here. And Joe's like, no, we can still do this. And he's like, no. Okay, we'll get the next one. And all of a sudden they start arguing. And she's like, you never seen it miss this house and miss that house and come after you, referring to that night when her dad died. And he's like, killing yourself is not going to bring your dad back. I'm sorry he died, but it's a long time ago. And Melissa's just hearing all of this on the radio. Melissa's not there with them, but she's hearing all of it on the radio, listening to that argument, and she's thinking to herself, Bill still loves her, she still loves him. Melissa's starting to rethink her whole engagement to Bill because she knows that he's still in love with Joe. And So, Skip, they're at the drive-in movie. Well, they're not at the drive-in movie theater. They're at an auto body garage across the street. And across the street, there's a drive-in movie theater playing The Shining, which is an awesome movie. Awesome movie. Jack Nicholson was really awesome in that movie. The movie's pretty scary, too. You definitely need to watch The Shining. I'll definitely have to review that movie one of these days. And Dusty's so Joe, she finally does sign the divorce papers, and Dusty's he's checking the weather, and Bill's like, I was thinking about Dorothy. I don't know if it's gonna work. I don't know how we can get her to fly. And they're like, well, we're gonna have to try and fix that. And all of a sudden, Dusty's like, tornado's coming. He's like, Bill, Joe, it's coming right for us. And Bill's like, nope, it's already here. Everybody underground. And all of a sudden, people in the movie theater are starting to trying to run to safety. And they get into the belly of the auto garage. And all of a sudden, this freaking tornado, F4 tornado, is just crashing through, destroys the movie theater. At the part where Jack Nicholson in the movie Shining says, here's Johnny, that's when the tornado just blows that freaking screen away. Right when he's saying, here's Johnny. And the tornado's just going through that garage, and all of a sudden, and Melissa's screaming like crazy. She's like, okay, this was a mistake. I wish I didn't come here. And and then the tornado's over. And it's just kind of, how convenient is it that the tornado just blows everything away, but every vehicle on the storm chasing team is still good. That's just very convenient. So they're checking to find out where the tornado is heading. And Dusty's like, it looks to hit Wakita head on where Aunt Meg is. And they're like, oh, let's get out of here. And Melissa's like, I'm not coming with you guys. I'm saying goodbye, Bill. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. She needs you. You're still in love with her. And he's like, okay. He doesn't really react like, okay. He's like, I never wanted it to happen this way. So anyway, so they drive and they go, and they drive to Wakita. And they see Aunt Meg's house freaking trash. Tornado blew it away. And Wakita is just a freaking disaster zone. It looked like the tornado just freaking tore Wakita up. And the funny thing is when this movie was in production, there was actually an airplane going over Wakita at that time. And when they were looking down to see all that damage down there, they hadn't, the pilot of that airplane had no idea that they were filming a movie, so they landed to see if they could help out. They're like, no, we're just filming a movie. Oh, okay. Anyway, so when they see Aunt Meg's house trashed, they go in there and they're like, this house can collapse any second, and they're able to get Aunt Meg to safety. They're like, get an ambulance over here, and they get an ambulance. They find out Aunt Meg's going to be okay, and Dusty goes to Joe and says, it's happening. NSSL, the Severe Thunderstorm Laboratory, whatever the heck that thing is called, has predicted an F5. And so anyways, Joe is looking at this thing that Aunt Meg created. It's like this spinning thing, and she's like, I know how to get Dorothy to fly. She's like, I know how to get Dorothy to fly. So like, of course. So they're adjusting Dorothy to make it better for Dorothy to fly to get up into the tornado. So they're out chasing this big F5 tornado, and this is a huge F5 tornado. And they set Dorothy down in the damage path, but she doesn't fly. They got one more Dorothy left, and they're going like, okay, this is the last one, last time. All right, let's go. So anyways, and all of a sudden this big oil tanker freaking crashes right in front of them. And they're driving through the flames, and they're freaking driving, and then all of a sudden big heavy tractors start freaking falling down right in front of them. They're like, we got debris, and Bill's like, debris? And they're like, right, left, right, left. And they're like, what now? I don't know. And then all of a sudden this freaking huge house just rolls out into the middle of the highway. It's like, I think we're going in. And they just drive right through the house and everything. That's really awesome. And he's like, yeah, we should definitely get off this road. And then they see Jonas. Jonas is right next to this big F5 tornado, and he's trying to put put his weather instrument up into the tornado. But Jonas is right, extremely close to this tornado, and Bill's like, I hate the guy, but I don't want him to die. So Bill gets on the CB radio, and he's like, hey, this thing can shift and turn its track, and it's going to come right at you. You guys need to get out of there. And he's like, nah, I think we're good. And so Jonas and his driver, they're driving, and all of a sudden, this thing just goes right into Jonas's truck, and the tornado picks Jonas's truck up, and Jonas is killed. Sad, I didn't want to see him die, but oh well. Joe's like, well, there was nothing we can do. We tried. So, anyways, then they drive into this. Then they drive into this field, and drive into this cornfield. There's a farm, and they set the truck on cruise control, and they let the truck with Dorothy in the back of the truck. They let the truck drive right into the tornado. The tornado picks the truck up with Dorothy in it, and Dorothy flying, and all of a sudden they're getting readings, or getting the weather velocity of the tornado and everything. They're like, yes, Dorothy is flying. We're getting readings, yay! And then next thing you know, tornado shifts its path, and now it's coming right after Joe and Bill. And they're like, oh no! So Joe and Bill are running from the tornado, and they're running from the tornado. The tornado is literally chasing them, and they find themselves in a barn, but yet there's a bunch of freaking machetes and stuff in the barn, and they're like, nope, we're not hanging out in here. So they get out of the barn, they go into this other thing, and they see these pipes and stuff. They're like, these pipes go down like 50 feet. If we anchor through, we can have a chance. So they tie themselves to the pipes, and the tornado goes into the pipes and picks them up, but they're tied to the pipes, and they're able to survive. And, they're inside the tornado, and they're able to survive, and which couldn't happen in real life. But I don't really know how to explain it. You would just have to watch the movie if you've never seen it. But I would assume that you've already seen this movie, and they survive, and they're like, and then all of a sudden it's gone. The tornado's gone. Dorothy flew. They got an advanced warning. They're about to set up a new advanced warning system. Everything's going great. And Bill and Joe kiss. They reconcile. They're back together. And the movie's over. And the movie's over, and you hear the song Respect the Wind, an instrumental by Edward and Alex Van Halen playing, an instrumental, which is a good song, the end credits, and this is an awesome movie. I love the movie. I saw it at the drive-in when I was a kid. I love this movie. I would definitely, I love this movie. I'm always watching this movie, especially here in the month of May. I live in Oklahoma. I don't know tornadoes. I don't really know exactly how they work, but I live in Oklahoma, so I know what it's like to be in a tornado situation. So this was just an awesome movie, and I just want to say the soundtrack, while it's not exactly my favorite soundtrack of all time, it does have a lot of good songs in it. My favorite band of all time, Van Halen with Sammy Hagar, Humans Being is the lead track of the soundtrack. The Long Way Down by Goo Goo Dolls. Love Affair by K.D. Lang, Moments Like This by Alison Krauss, Respect the Wind by Edward and Alex Van Halen. I just really love the soundtrack. It was awesome, and I give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I love the movie. This is an awesome movie. The special effects were just freaking awesome. You definitely have to, if you have the DVD, Blu-ray, you have to watch the special features, because they just did an amazing job of this movie. I thought it was really good. It was directed by Jan de Bont. This was just an all-out movie. 8.5. I love the movie. And, hey, that's the video. This is my Twister review. Okay. Please don't make fun of me for this. Please don't make fun of me for this video. But that's the Twister review, okay? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to roll the windows up of your car. This is Thunderstorm 99. I am Nick, and I am out.